guys, this is Bongani from The Edge. If you didn't watch the previous video that I was explaining the concept that you're going to use to actually solve the values of each of the following in terms of k, the sine 28 and cos 242. So I used an 8 of a right angle on the previous video, but in a case like this I would say please stick to the method of using a Cartesian plane. So a Cartesian plane is going to clarify a lot of things, but on this one I just said let me just break it guys so that you understand the concept that is around solving such questions. Okay, let's solve the question. Enough talking guys, solve the actual question. So if we are given something like this, as I said on the previous video when I was explaining, if you have something like cos 62 degrees and it's equals to k, we said that value we can write it as k out of 1 like that, right? And we know that our cos function is adjacent out of hypotenuse. So in this case we know that our adjacent is going to be k, our hypotenuse is going to be 1. So let's go to a Cartesian plane real quick. Then we have our line, then we have this, then we have our right angle triangle, and we know that our adjacent is usually the side. Let's say this is the 62 degrees that we're looking at. We know that our adjacent is here, our hypotenuse is going to be here, and this side is going to be like an opposite. Alright, so if you think about it, we have this side and we also have this side as k, but we don't know what's this side. So the first thing that I would usually advise is solve for the side that you don't know, right? That's the first thing that you have to know. So we're going to use the theorem of Pythagoras, top. So we're going to have our, let's just call this side opposite x. We're going to have x squared plus our adjacent. Our adjacent is k squared is equals to 1 squared. We know 1 squared is 1, k squared is going to remain as k squared, and x squared is going to be like this. Then we're going to transpose this k squared to the other side. We're going to have 1 minus k squared. Then we want x, we don't want x squared. So we put like a square root. We root both sides. Then we're going to have our x as 1 minus k squared. So this is our opposite over here, opposite, right? Then we can erase all of this because I don't think we need it. Okay, we found our opposite as the square root of let me just write it here. Found it as the square root of 1 minus k squared, right? All right, but now if you look at the question 5.1.1, they say sine 28, but we don't have any 28 over here. But if you watch the previous video, as I explained, there's this angle inside of our triangle. If we can try to find it, you might be surprised that it is actually 28, but let's find it. So what's the sum of angles in a triangle? Is 108. Let's call this angle y. We're going to have y plus 62 degrees plus 90 degrees is equals to 180 degrees. Then if we say y is equals to 180 degrees minus 90 degrees minus 62 degrees. So our y there apparently and luckily it is 28 degrees. So we are not actually concerned about the value of 62, we are concerned about the value of 28. So we know that, okay, now the value here is 28 degrees, the value for y. Can remove this again, not that. So we know that the value for y is 28. So if we think about this question again, if we are at that angle of 28 degrees at the top, let me just extract that triangle. Let me put that 28 here at the bottom, then let me put that 62 degrees here. If we look at this 28, our opposite now is going to be this side over here. Our adjacent is going to be this side. We're going to compare the sides with what you have on our sketch. Now let's grab our marker. As I said, this hypotenuse over here is going to be this hypotenuse over here, right? And if we now look at our adjacent now becomes the side that has the 28 degrees and the 90 degrees. So which one is it here? Which side has the 28 and which side has the 28 degrees and the 90 degrees as this side over here? So that's our adjacent now. And if we look correctly, the other side is obvious. We have this side over here, it's going to correspond to that side. So you see, now these things flip. It's like the adjacent and opposite exchange places. The opposite, when we were looking at this triangle from the 62 degrees perspective on the sketch, we have the adjacent here and the opposite here. But now, if we look at it from the 28 degrees perspective, our adjacent now becomes that value of 1 minus k squared, and our opposite here becomes that value for k, right? So that's the whole idea. So now if we try to solve for this question, let's solve it. We know sine is opposite of height, right? Then we know that our opposite now is what? It's k, and our hypotenuse is 1 apparently. So that means sine 28 degrees is equals to k. That is your first answer, right? Then I'll record like a second video for the second answer.